Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I wish you could all understand how much fun Matt and I have just had for the last 15 minutes getting ready for this interview. It's already been so much like love, smiles, laughter, and I love it so much. So if you have listened to the podcast for a long time, you'll probably recognize who my guest is today. And it's Mattarot, and he is amazing. And we are going to talk about everything that we love to talk about. Crystals, healing, energy, the collective, everything. So I'm very excited for you all to hear this episode. I guess, Matt, to sort of dive on in and maybe I want to do some like recap from where we left off in our last conversation because so much has changed.
Oh my God.
Where do we even begin in terms of what has changed? I have some questions for you. But
Yes.
I guess to kick us off and to get us really started off, can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you sort of got here, and yeah, just like a little recap of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. Simona, thank you so much for having me again. It's an honor.
You're so welcome.
Okay, I've always been kind of like granola kid spiritual. When I was younger, like I would like spend a lot of time in nature, and I guess I just like started tapping into the energy that isn't mine because I could like pick up on people's emotions, which is kind of like the empathic path.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was introduced to tarot cards when I was in high school, devoured all the knowledge I could from it, and I was gifted my first deck in university. So I've been on this path for about like actually practicing a thing for about 10-ish years, but I've been spiritual for the most half of my life, a big part of my life. That's the correct way to say that. So,
you mean the last half of your life? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh God.
No.
The one crutch of the problem of being psychic. So yeah, and also too, like I have a big affinity for crystals and a big affinity for energy healing, and that began very, very early on when my mom used to like buy me crystals, and I didn't know what they were doing, but definitely on like a subtle unconscious level, I was like, what is this? You know?
Mm-hmm. I hear you so much with that. I want to just ask you a question. It just came to mind really quick.
Yeah.
And so I asked this because someone had said this to me the other day, and it's about crystals in specific. And since you and I have met, my spiritual journey has changed so much. I've also started reading oracle cards. I read oracle cards specifically, not to, yeah.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. I'll send you a picture of my deck. I have two.
Yes. Sorry, keep talking. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, yay. You know, it's funny. I was like talking to a friend yesterday and she was going through something, and I'm like cutting vegetables for my lunch today and prepping my lunch or whatever. And I'm standing there. I'm like, she needs me to pull a card. So I went and
You literally had a "that's so Raven" moment.
Like, where's the spiral? Like, oh.
Oh my God, I love
So
that.
I left the salad, not even washed. I left the salad on the counter with the knife. And I went and I just like, I pulled all my cards, and I literally was like voice noting her. I was like, okay, card number 1 says da, 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 da. And I'm like, this is what I'm getting, and this is what and anyways, so we were going off. And it was very exciting. So I wanted to share that with you because I thought you'd be very excited to hear this. So,
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because, okay, you know what? I really appreciate that because I think that it takes a lot of confidence to actually step fully into who you are and own all the different parts of yourself. And there's so many people who want to do something and don't feel like they don't feel like they'll ever be able to or anything like that. And so, you know, I think that it just kind of goes back to like always just taking that first step. But what I wanted to say about this was, so since you and I started met and started talking, and in the last episode you and I did together on here, you spoke a lot about crystals, a lot about, different crystals for different things. And so I went to the crystal store. I should have gotten them from you. Note to self for next time. I completely forgot.
I forgive you.
Okay. Thank you. So I went to the crystal store and I bought a bunch of crystals and I brought them all home, and I wear them all the time, like different ones I'll pick up and whatever. Note to self, don't get the pointy ones. They hurt when you put them in your bra. It is painful. And by the end of the day, it's like, ew.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I was talking to one of my coworkers and we're going back and forth, and I'm telling her I've introduced crystals to the workplace, and I have a sulfur one, a yellow sulfur, and it's really good for absorbing negative energy, right? Right? I think.
Yes, it's also I'm surprised you went for sulfur. It's intense masculine energy. You're
It
tapping
is?
it. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I just see you as very divine feminine. So I think it's interesting that you're going for divine masculine. Maybe you need to balance that out. Nothing wrong with it, Simona. Don't read into it. I just
No.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe I need to balance that energy there with something else. But anyway, so it's really cute though, because all of my coworkers now are like, what does the rock do? And I'm like, let me tell you, sister, I'm going to tell you what the rock does. And so now we call it the negative energy rock, that it absorbs all the negative energy in the space. So with that said, this is a very long way to get to my question for you, but I'm okay. I am here for it.
You're here.
I'm here, you're here, and which is the most important part, because without you, there would be no this conversation. So
it would be a very interesting podcast of you just talking at your audience.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh God, they'd be like, I think she's lost it. I think she's lost her mind.
Too many crystals.
Too many crystals. so, oh my God, I love this conversation already. So anyway, so I'm talking to one of them and I was trying to explain, sometimes when you wear the crystals, they'll absorb the energy, and sometimes they break or they crack or they'll get whatever, right? And then she goes, honestly, bless her, if you're listening, I love you. She goes, Simona, you should just Google what happens to crystals when they get warm. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah,
here you are, you're sitting on a mountaintop, you're holding your crystals, you're give me a sign, and then your coworker's just Google is a thing.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, I don't really know what to say. So I'm like, okay. So my question for you is, what is the difference between a crystal, do crystals actually absorb energy? Is this a real thing that happens? Do they break because of that? Is that why they break? Or is there another source called 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius?
Okay. Well, first things first, crystals are created in high density and high intensity pressures underground. So if a crystal gets to a really high temperature, it depends on the makeup of the crystal. Some are going to break and some are just going to stay fine because they probably can have that temperature threshold. To answer your metaphysical question, because I am not a chemist, yes, crystals. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. Good God, you do not want to drink any of my tinctures. I don't know what I'm doing. Here, have this witch's root. Anyway, moving on. Yes, crystals can break because they are collecting energy that's not their resonance, and it also depends on the crystal, right? Some are going to inherently bring energy in and some are going to push energy out. Sulfur is definitely a good protective stone. And did it break just by being in your workplace and not doing anything else?
No, it was one that I was wearing. I think it was clear.
Oh, okay. Clear as day. Okay, well, you're gonna have to tell me which one it is. And
okay, I'll send you a picture.
Yeah,
but I would whip it out of my bra, but it's not in there right now.
Give something a little extra for your audience.
And honestly, and when I was at work, I literally whipped it out. I was like, yes, this one. And she's like, She's like, did you just take crystals out of your bra? And I was like, yeah, I did.
Simona, am living for your new path so much. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Oh my God, Matt, I don't actually think I've ever laughed this much on a podcast interview, right? We're just getting started, you guys.
Just have me back.
Started.
Have me back more. It's good for your health.
Oh my God, maybe we should just do a joint show.
Let's talk.
Okay. Everyone, we're going to have to pause. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. I do want to dive into other things too, because I want people to get extreme value out of this episode, and I know that they will. So I would love to ask you next, after my sidebar question, what are some signs that someone is intuitively connected, and how can someone start to tap into that?
Absolutely. Okay. So there's like a million different ways it can manifest, and it's because there's so many different ways we take in energy and information in our bodies. The last time we talked, I was primarily talking about tapping into other people's emotions that aren't mine, or the collective's emotions. That has actually been amplified, and I have been discovering new things for me. Before I was talking about clairsentience, which is like feeling things. But just because you're asking how can people pick up on it, there's so many different ways to get kind of psychic information, and it can be clairvoyance, which is visions, clairsentience, which is feeling, clairaudience, which is hearing. And I've started hearing things again. I haven't heard things like a whisper or names for years.
The last shivers.
Yeah, it's spooky but cool, because at the same time we're like leveling up, we're upgrading our spiritual potential. And when I was younger, I was being approached by a lot of negative energy and low vibrational energy that I pretty much just like closed my third eye. I was not ready to deal with the potential of how I could tap into the collective energy. So I basically closed my ears for years. And now, from everything that's been going on in the world, which we'll get to, and everything else, I'm starting to hear things. And no, I'm not mentally unstable. I'm a therapist. I've been to therapy for years. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Huge advocate for it. This is information that can come in. Going back to your question, you can hear things, you can feel things, you can see things. You might be having vivid dreams that you're finding come true as time goes on, and you're like, I swear I've seen this before. Deja vu, it's real, guys. You've probably seen it in a dream. And honestly, if you can just if you have a sense of knowing, like you're doing something and you're like, I don't like that idea. It's not you being a dingus or rude or whatever. It's you tapping into your intuition. And it's because your third eye is trying to give you that information that you need, so then that way you can guide your path in not a righteous way, but the correct way,
The aligned way.
That's the word. Wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So then from there, how does someone start to do this work? How does someone start to be able to access these different parts? You know what I mean? Because I feel like, let's say third eye, for example, I feel like you could do a meditation to open up your third eye, and then it can close again. You know what I mean? And then you can open it again, and then it can close again.
Yes.
So what does that journey look like? What could someone start doing to, access these different parts of them and these different levels?
You know what I like to think of energy and the chakra systems. There's a lot of different schools of thought about this. And from my personal experience, how energy works is that you flow. It's never one directional. Harry Styles does not belong in the chakra system. We need to really look at how we are really tapping into our deeper spirit through what our body and our soul needs. I've heard people say, your life's path is to work your way up through the chakras. You start at the root, you go to the sacral, go to the solar plexus, and once you level up, you don't have to go back. I'm sorry.
I don't agree.
I do not agree.
If that's the truth, I'm a train wreck, okay?
Yeah. Same. I was living in my heart chakra for years. And then from another psychic source, I was told, you gotta spend more time in your third eye, because you are just giving too much, and you're not using your intuition to guide yourself in a path that is actually going to be beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to hear it at first, because I wanted to keep living in my heart. It was comfortable. I knew what it felt like. It felt good. End of story. But we need to constantly challenge ourselves to like just feel the energy. So
Yes.
I've already forgotten your question. It was something.
How do you like, how do you continue to practice that? Like, how do you
Yeah.
continue to, yeah.
So yeah, you do like a meditation for the third eye. Your third eye is great. Suddenly you're finding that your sexual energy is unbalanced, and it's because maybe you're experiencing some fear or stress in your life, and it's manifesting in your root and your sacral chakra. There are different foods you can eat, different essential oils you can use to balance, the different crystals obviously you can use, and you can work on them in a very passive way by using these tools, or you can work on them in an active way by doing intentional ceremonies, like writing down all the things on the piece of paper that you want from your sexual life, or if you're working on your solar plexus, like the projects that you're trying to manifest, and the willpower that you want to believe in yourself, like visualizing yourself and like doing, like yoga poses and mudras for these very specific energies to kind of unblock that. Because energy flows. It's never just going to go up and never just going to go down. In my personal opinion and experience, podcast universe. I'm sorry if other people disagree.
That's okay. That's why we're here, because we are talking about the things that are important, and talking about the things that, people will always have different opinions, and people will always have, their own way of thinking about things. And, I do want to say also that I think maybe as you're talking, and I think this like really relates to the third eye, part that you were talking about for your own specific self. Because for everyone who's like listening to the episode, I always send all of my guests questions in advance, because I like for my guests to know what I'm going to ask. I like when they know, the direction that I'm hoping to take the conversation. And what I loved so much that you were like, I want to add this, this, and this, and I want to talk about this, this, and this, because there you are taking ownership of your life, yourself, your business, and guiding what you want people to hear from you. That's a big deal. Do you know how many people don't ever say that back to me? You know what I mean? And it's like, there could be anything else that we could have talked about that, so on, so on, so on. But I think that that's a really good like reflection of you stepping into that like next version of you, which is crazy.
Thank you. No, I love that. I love that validation. Thank you.
It's true. No, it's so true. And I also think like, okay, when you say like you hear things, what do they say? Like, what is it like? Like, is it like life nudges that you're getting? Are you getting things for other people?
Yeah, it's right now it's primarily for me. And I only say that because in the past I've heard like people say my name. I've heard like knocks at the door when it's like time to go, open the door. Like, what are you waiting for? I've heard like spirits trying to communicate with me, but like either through sighs or laughing. And it's very unnerving at first, because you're like, there's a ghost. I'm gonna die.
Full body shivers.
I'm gonna
die. And I don't know if it's because like I can like fully understand what you're like. I can't fully understand it because this doesn't happen to me too, but like I feel like the vibration of that. Okay.
Yeah. Continue. No, it's fine. And also too, like, that's why I blocked it out for years, because I was like, oh, geez. I don't. No. So yeah, like right now it's just for me. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on my third eye crystals that I'm working with. I cannot stand the vibration of amethyst, even though everyone's obsessed with it. But I'm learning how to love it. I prefer lapis lazuli, so I'm working with those kinds of crystals that are all about up here. But today I wore heart chakra crystals because it's nice to feel good sometimes.
I love that so much. It's all about balance, okay?
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Right? So is it like little confirmations of things that you're experiencing, or like, trying to
figure out. Yes and no. Honestly, I like, this is going to sound wild. I'm hearing things, but I don't know what they mean. I'm still figuring it
Oh.
out. I definitely am also getting a bit of like information about if I'm going on the right path. And also too, I'm also still receiving the messages I've been receiving forever, like a feather crossing my path and landing in front of me, or like a
What does
lady.
that mean?
So there's multiple different interpretations because I work with angelic energy.
Mm,
Anytime I see feathers, it's like my angels are like, keep going, and I'm like, cool, thanks.
I love
But
that.
I also get visited by animals, and animal buddies from the astral plane have different meanings because they all stand for different kinds of energy. And I'll have like a dragonfly buzz around me, or a ladybug land on me, or I'll see like a fox, and it's like, okay, what is that? Or like, what is this? And those have been happening to me forever. And I know you're like, but animals exist, Matthew. Like that happens for everybody. And it's like, yes, but are the messages consistent? And are you consistently visited by that same animal?
Mm,
That's what you need to start looking for.
that's so good.
But also at the same time, what visits you, Simona?
Okay, so what visits me? It was really interesting. I've done like a bunch of different like energy healing and that kind of stuff. One of my guides is my dog that's passed away. I cannot even. Yeah, it's really, yeah. So yeah, I know.
That's so lovely.
I know. It really is lovely because it makes you feel like at peace. And yeah, I'm obsessed with him still. It's been a few months. No, it's been like almost a year. Still obsessed. But like that'll come through and like, okay, have you ever done like meditations to like get in tune with your higher self? And sometimes those, like if you're listening to a guided meditation, it'll say like, oh, and there was a box, and like what's inside the box, and like I'll open the box and there's like a puppy, like my old puppy in the box. I'm like, hi, come say mom, like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So
What kind of dog?
He was a Shih Tzu poodle.
Oh, okay.
I'll send you a picture.
Oh,
I know, it's really cute.
The only reason I ask is because, and it's probably because you're blonde hair, but like I immediately get like golden retriever vibes.
That's what we're hoping to get one day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? So thanks. So that's one. And then another one, which this was so crazy to me. My fiance and I we were like up north and we were ATVing with my sister and her boyfriend. And this butterfly, like a monarch butterfly, lands on my leg. Okay. And we're ATVing. Okay, Matt. So we're going like 1,000,000 kilometers an hour. This thing hung on the entire time. It didn't go anywhere. And I was like looking down and I kept saying I'm like, Steve, like, look, it's still here. And he's like, this is so weird. Like, anyways, but that was about a year ago.
Wow.
So at the time I wasn't like completely understanding what that meant. And then I researched afterwards and it just says like, confirmation from like the afterlife or something like that. And I was like, okay, cool. Like that sounds good.
It's also an animal of the healer. So.
Oh. Thank you for that confirmation. I like that.
Keep working on it. Keep open up. You've got this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then you were saying, feathers come across your path, which is why I was asking you. When I was working at my old job, I was sitting at my desk and I'll never forget this. It was like later in the evening and I get like chills when I talk about this. I was sitting at my desk and I'm just like working on my computer, whatever. And I think I was working on something for a course that I had created and I was like at work. Sorry that I'm now admitting it, but whatever, it's fine. It's what it is.
Whatever.
It's been so long ago. Anyways, I'm like, oops, sorry. Did I just like out myself? Like,
I was like, are you apologizing to me? Like, girl, it's a side hustle. Get it going. You got this.
You got to. So creating this course, whatever, all of a sudden I saw like a tiny little feather. It came up from the left. And then it went right across my eyesight and then it went right back down. And I was like, okay, I'm paying attention. Like, yes. I'm listening. And then I Googled it and I don't exactly remember 100% what that was, but I think it was a sign. I think it's a sign from the angels.
Well,
on the right path.
it is. And also different feather colors can mean different things. It depends on how intensely you want to like really read into things.
Right.
For me, it's like I pray almost every day, and that's a part of my practice. So anytime I see feathers, it's just like, okay, cool. Thanks. And
I'm paying
like,
attention.
got it. You don't have to yell at me.
Why are you so mean? Just kidding.
No, I love it. I love it. They can yell at me all they want. I just need to figure out these random spirits who are like sighing at me. Like, okay, what do you want? How can I help you?
What do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? Oh my God. So like, okay, are you ever worried though that you're going to get like negative energy? No, eh?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Used to, absolutely used to, because I didn't know how to protect myself. But then I basically spent the majority of my youth when all of this was happening learning how energy works and all of this. And like, I don't do magic. I don't do spells. I don't have a problem with anybody that does. It's their bag. I'm not going to judge, whatever. But in my opinion, if you are a victim of a spell and suddenly someone's like, I'm going to hex you, it's like, okay, great. As soon as you are like, I am protected, I am safe, like I have this like crystal bubble of golden light around me, like the angels are protecting me, I'm severing ties, like done. Zero, like what's the song by Erica Jane? How many fucks do I give?
Should I be the intro to this episode?
I just love it because it's so like, she's like obviously half naked, but she's like, how many fucks do I give? Zero, 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 done. And it's like, that's how I feel when someone's trying to send me negative energy with intention to like hurt me. It's like zero, 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 done. Like you can't do anything to me because I'm not letting it affect me.
Ooh.
Took me years to get there.
How did you get there? That's big.
Well, the thing is, the work, but it's also becoming aware of your own personal power and also finding your alignment. And for me, it's angels. For me, it's light. For me, it's nature. And obviously, I tap into the energy of crystals. I'm still affected by other people's emotions. I'm still affected by the thoughts other people have. But when it comes to energy, like, I have a really quick story.
Please. The floor is yours.
So I was at an event and there was another healer there. And we were talking about the importance of respecting sacred plant medicine from different cultures as white people and maybe not appropriating it and selling it as a product. And I was trying to gently open the door to the conversation to be like, let's maybe be a bit more sensitive. And said healer just went off on me. Just like, it shouldn't be a big deal anymore. I don't understand why it's such a problem. We're all healers. We're trying to help people. We can use these tools. I should be able to sell them. I get it. I get it. Their ego was threatened. They were scared. They didn't want to be wrong. They want to be a healer. They want to be good. I wasn't trying to criticize them. I was just trying to open the door to the conversation.
Yeah.
Old me would be like, oh, you're right. I'm a piece of shit. I'm sorry. Oh. But like, I'm just listening to them. And then I pick up my Tibetan singing bowl and I just gently start playing it while they're talking at me for like maybe another 5 minutes of ranting. And it was literally like, you're doing nothing to me. And I was fine.
Oh my God, I love that. That's incredible.
That's just one example.
What would be some of these tools that you speak of?
Tools. Okay.
Like that would be culturally appropriated that we don't actually necessarily know.
So that's the thing. This is an ongoing conversation because this is being recorded at the end of June, and June 2020 was a shitstorm for so many different things.
It honestly, yep.
And we'll talk about it.
Well, let's talk about it now. Let's dive on in.
Amazing. So I've been learning and unlearning everything about white supremacy and the importance of how I've been complicitly a white supremacist with white privilege my entire life without realizing, which is nuts, because you never would think that you're a bad person until you actually tune into how you've been complicit in a system that has been created out of your control otherwise. And you have to, honestly, you have to just take ownership for how you can be a better person. It's not that you
Yes.
are a bad person and you're garbage, so feel sad about yourself. It's not even about the feelings. It's how can we move forward so we can maybe begin structuring a better future for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The medicine we were talking about was sage and Palo Santo both, but I have had a journey with sage specifically.
Okay.
Sage has been an indigenous person's practice, a healing practice by shamans and healers that has been grown on sacred land for years. And only recently I've realized that it's been basically mass produced and circulated as a commodified product for spiritual wellness by people who aren't necessarily indigenous to make money.
Yes, I was actually having a conversation about this with someone the other day, which is really interesting timing wise, because I've started getting into the world of saging myself and my house and all of these things, right? And learning about what it is. And so I went to this specific crystal store, and the owner is, what was she? I think she was pagan.
Okay.
And she was telling me, and I didn't I didn't quite get it at the time. And then once I learned more and started to understand from a different perspective, I realized how important it was that she was saying that everything that's in her shop, like all, like in terms of like the sage, and she had I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was like a braid, and you're supposed to
Sweetgrass?
yeah. And she had all of these different things, and she was like, this comes directly from like the indigenous land. It's not the one that's mass produced. It's not the one that's, and I was like, that sounds lovely. Like, you know, it's amazing. Like supporting, you know, those traditions from where they came from, to me was like, okay, like that, I support this, you know what I mean? But then it's like, it makes you think twice. It's like, you don't want to disrespect what was and what somebody uses for your own practices. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
But then it's like, you know, then on the other side of that, it's like, are you never allowed to use it again?
And that's the thing.
No?
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm having conversations with people. I've talked to numerous people. I've heard yes with respect in private, or no unless you're indigenous. And personally, because I've just done so much work learning how to like work with my energy and protect myself, like I don't need to use sage. So I will not use it unless I get express permission from the folks who deem it a sacred plant medicine. And I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with like cold turkey until I'm told otherwise, because I don't want that vibration of being disrespectful, period.
It's so true. It's a really, really good point. And I think, you know, on the flip side of that, it's like, you know, if you're researching where it came from, if you're understanding, you know, the root of where it comes from, how it was used in the past, how it's used now, I think, you know, on that point is like, if you are doing it respectfully in the private of your own home, and actually respectfully, genuinely, respectfully, it's like, but is that okay? Do you know what I mean? But, you know, I think in also some way it's like a beautiful appreciation for a culture that we don't talk enough about.
I also agree with you.
Right? And it's like every story has like, every side has like 1,500 other sides.
I think the best approach for folks like us who would love to engage in the practice, but it's tricky, is to, you know, make the effort to learn from indigenous people. Very similar to how many of us have been amplifying melanated voices regarding the Black Lives Matters protests, like having Black folks who have been fighting this fight and these protests for so long for just equality, not like anything radical. Just stop killing us in the streets. Let's just, flat out. You know what I mean? So like, we are having those people speak, listen, learn, great. We need to do that with indigenous people too. Speak, listen, like let us understand, so then that way we get why we use sage and how we can use sage, or if it's okay or not okay, like teach us, you know, because we could talk about it all day, Simona, but I still want to hear it from someone who can tell me definitively. you know?
Exactly. And offer a different perspective, and, you know, just have a conversation so you can learn, you know what I mean? And I think that that's like where a lot of what's going on in the world has sort of like failed, is like nobody has taken the chance to learn. Like we've all.
It's hard when the education system has whitewashed everything, though.
Well,
very,
right?
very
When
hard.
I think back to like what you learn in like history class, nothing.
Literally nothing. We have to do the work ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, cool, we'll do the work, but how can we also, I don't know, make a system that won't fail entire generations of people?
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that, because I think that it's like a shift that has to happen. The more people do the work within themselves, the more you'll be able to have teachers who understand from a different perspective, and, you know, go to a school board where it's like, you know, actually maybe it should be this, and this instead. We should be talking about this, and this instead. And you start to change that conversation, but that conversation can never change unless you start. It'll never change unless you start.
Yes. Also too, like, I don't need to learn about advanced math functions. Teach me how to do my taxes.
Oh my God. I literally, like, not to like, yes, exactly. I still haven't done my taxes for this year. Okay. Same. I don't know how.
What I'm doing.
I don't even know the percentage of taxes that gets taken off of, like, I don't have, is it 13%? Because I feel like that's HST. Like, I don't know.
I'm just going to bring a box of papers to H&R Block. I'm like, I'm sorry. The education system has failed me.
I don't know how. And even like today, I think I was literally doing like simple math for my boss. It was like 80 plus 90 plus like 100. And I was like, okay, 250. And she was like, definitely not. Like, just take that in for a second, okay? It never stuck with me. I use my calculator, and I have no shame in that at all. Okay.
But I love that you were so confident.
Yes.
You were like, it's this.
I know for a fact. Oh my God. And she was like,
maybe not.
Let's try again, you know? One more time. Oh my God. Okay. To shift back though into this conversation, because I'm loving that we're talking about this. Let's talk a little bit about how the collective has started to change. And do you think that there's like a spiritual purpose for the events that are happening right now?
Yes. So, first of all, I'm not an astrology person. I am getting more and more interested in astrology because of just how it is lined up so synchronously across the board. I'm also realizing that I'm getting really dark over here, so I'm going to turn on a light, which is just really fun.
Okay. I was like, don't walk too far away with the headphones. Like,
no, we're good.
Can I tell you a funny story as a side note?
Yeah.
There was one time I was doing videos, like for something. It was like completely separate than my business. And it was the most hilarious thing. This girl was like mic'd up and everything. And she wanted to go get her phone. And she forgot she had the mic on. So she got up and she started walking really fast, took down the camera, took down the lights and everything. But the camera was recording. So it recorded the entire thing. And it was honestly, we cried of laughter. It was so funny. It was like, no, is all you heard on that. So every time someone gets up with cords, I'm like, oh, no.
It's okay. It's just right there. So we're good.
Anyways, dive back in.
So I'm not an astrology person, but I'm becoming more and more curious to become an astrology person, because the last time all of these kinds of civil rights movement events happened was 100 years ago, when all like there were like, what, I think 5 different planets in retrograde all at the same time. I don't know if it was 100 years ago or 400 years ago. This is how bad I am at math. So we're not going to go back to that conversation. We're just going to move forward.
Just take note and move forward.
So basically the last time all of this happened, timeline wise, where the planets were, was when there was a huge uprising like this. And I can't help, it's not a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence, simply because now we have social media. Before, it was people in small groups all over the world, you know, really, really trying to push back on many different things in their own ways. Now, collectively, we were all like, Black Lives Matters. And yes, for many people, it started with a black square. but we're not going to talk about the black square at length, because that action of putting a black square on Instagram and then suddenly listening to other people like, oh, is that all you're going to do? Like, what are you going to do? It incited curiosity, it incited action to learn more, and then hordes of people woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Woke up is the key terminology, because what's the reason this is happening spiritually? It's so we can raise our vibration collectively. This world has been run by some really, really wacky people that have their own interests at heart. The talking Cheeto across the border has his agenda in place just for him. And if any of your listeners are American and in support of Donald Trump, I'm sorry, but we're not friends.
We're not. So,
you know, like, we're waking up to why the system isn't working, and how we've been kept in the dark for so long about many different things, and how people like us who actually want to help people and be there for people probably only very recently found out just how messed up everything was.
Yeah.
And I can own that. I don't even feel ashamed about saying that. It's a part of life. The fact remains that we're now moving forward to do something, even if it's just continuing to educate and like learn and share.
Mm-hmm. It's,
you know?
so true, especially what you're saying about, you know, what's happening south of our border and everything that's sort of hidden behind what people don't want us to know. I love like conspiracy, and I'm really into it.
Okay, me too.
I like it because I think that it gives you a different perspective, because it tells you things. Here's the thing. I'm very much the type of person, I completely think that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. They're entitled to feel however they want to feel, whether I agree or not. And I think, you know, you and I are a little bit like similar in that way. You can hold the space for someone even if they don't necessarily agree with you, but it's also kind of like, but also here's another perspective I'm going to offer you if you'd like to consider, you know what I mean? And so I have like tons of family that are Trump supporters. And while I don't agree, they live in the States. While I don't agree, it doesn't mean that, you know, we have to have like a huge like feud, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's more of just like, that's just where you were brought up. That is just what you know. And kind of going back to everything that's happening in the world right now, a lot of everything that's going on is like a result of people just not knowing any better, unfortunately, which is not the right answer, but is almost like a reality for a lot of people. And you know what you were saying, sorry, again, about like the political agenda and all of those different things. On the day that people posted that black square, that was a Hillary Clinton trial.
Oh, girl.
Okay.
Oh, girl, so, I know.
Yeah. So I was like, that feels oddly curious to me as to why everyone is going to go off of social media. So nobody is talking about anything at all. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know about that. Then, you know, I've been like on Netflix, obviously, during this COVID and like watching different things. All the documentaries that they have out right now, the Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah. I know. Okay, so I have not watched that one yet, but I've been watching lots of other things about it. So
it's insane. And it's insane. Like, it's like a whole other world that people are like, yeah, it's so easy to just sit there and be like, no, that's not the truth. It's fake. People are making it up. But what if they're not? Do you know what I mean? Like,
what if they're not? Okay. So really, we are floating on a speck of dirt in the middle of the universe. And I guarantee there are other planets that have formed life similar to ours that have figured it out so much sooner than us. And they're pointing and laughing at us because we still have people that are like, those documentaries, they're a load of crock. Like, they're not. Don't even listen to them. Like, whatever. I'm just going to go back to like drinking my Coca-Cola and playing video games. And I play video games. So I'm not saying people who play video games are dumb. I'm just saying if you decide to stay asleep, you're literally doing yourself a disservice. I didn't realize we were going to talk about this stuff. This is great.
I know, I'm sorry, but I wanted to go there.
No, do not apologize. The thing is, it's real. Like, I don't think we're at a time in our planet that we don't have the privilege anymore to pretend like any information that has been put out there is false. We need to really start using critical thinking, not like start screaming into a megaphone being like, blah, 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 like pigs can fly. Like we really have to start like being like analyzing like why was Hillary Clinton on trial when no one was talking about it or knew about it? Why? I had this conversation with my grandparents and they don't even,
I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50 plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code HappinessHappens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode.
It was really sweet, actually. They don't use the internet. They think it's bad. They've just stayed away from it.
I mean, they're probably not fully wrong. There's lots of things on there that anyways.
Yeah, there is. And I basically was like, Grandma and Grandpa, like, I've been learning a lot about what's going on in our world right now and like what especially what's going on south of the border. And they're like, yes, we have too. And I'm like, okay, well, did you know that Hillary Clinton was in court? Like she had to testify because she was under trial. And they were both like, what do you mean? And here's the thing. My grandmother is very spiritual and I can talk to her about what we talk about and it's fine. And so is my grandfather, but maybe a little bit less because he was more corporate and she was more white, crunchy granola mom in the suburbs doing yoga and leading drumming circles. That was her jam. She's great. I basically was like, it's apparently because of some very heavily classified information that was leaked from her emails that implicated many people into horrible things. Isn't it interesting that nobody heard about it on like mainstream media because they were trying to cover it up or they weren't trying to share it? Who knows? But like, we need to start thinking about why that's the case.
Doesn't it? And I think that it's just like, it's such a good like question is like, how does it not spark like not in a judgmental way, like I'm not trying to sound judgmental to anybody who's listening to this, but it's like, how does it not make you want to just think of why that is happening?
Right.
I believe that everything begins and ends with why anything happens. There's always a root to that why. And the more you are willing to investigate the why and understand the why and dig deep into the why, the more you give yourself this opportunity to become more well-rounded, more just more awake.
Yes. I'm so proud of you. Look at you go. I feel like you're flexing your throat chakra and really using your ability to just like speak truth that is so important for everybody, because we're not saying like go burn down the White House. We're not saying that to our listeners right now. We're saying use your brain and get curious. It's not about like believing something because Matt and Simona talked about it.
Exactly.
It's about thinking.
Exactly. And and I think like at the same time, with everything that's going on and all of the different areas and layers to what is happening right now in the world, I've already accepted the fact that I'm not going to always say the right thing and I'm going to say the wrong thing and I'm going to make mistakes, and that's just the way that it is. And I think, I think so long as you can have genuine empathy and a desire to do better and to learn, I think that I'm not like saying that that's enough, because it's not, but it gives you like a drive to continuously do better.
Yes.
You know?
Agree. I love it. I love it so much. And I'm very quickly realizing that I need a ring light as the sun goes down. Oh my God. I look so ghastly on the camera right now. Oh. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I want to also just ask you, you know, being in the spiritual world and being in the spiritual community, going through and experiencing everything that the world is going through collectively right now, amplifying Black voices, sharing stories, sharing their businesses, sharing history, relearning, you know, educating, trying again, doing better, donating, understanding, having conversations, all of these things. As someone who is in the spiritual community, why is love and light not enough anymore?
I love this question so much. Okay, we're gonna do a shout out to another spiritual person on Instagram. Her account is Ebony Davis.
Okay, I'll link it.
Yeah, I found her while I was learning and unlearning, and how I found her was an Instagram live. No, sorry, it was just an IGTV. God, Instagram has so many products these days.
Oh, it's just so intense.
Just a video of her being like, I've gained a lot of new followers during this period of time, primarily women, white women who have some kind of spiritual practice. And she goes on and on and on into what she's about, what she's doing, and then something super duper important that just completely turned my entire perspective upside down. My slogan used to be lead with love and light. And yeah, I did resonate with that for a long time, because I do have leadership energy in me. I have a lot of Leo in my chart. And I also do believe in the tenets of love and light, love, compassion, and light, bringing divine light out to bring it out forward. Yes. Great. But because we're doing so much unlearning, and because we are dismantling the white supremacist system, and I'm not afraid of using those words anymore. It makes people cringe, but you have to understand that we have to get comfortable with saying white supremacy because it's real. Ebony Davis is a Black woman, by the way. She basically was just like, we can't love and light this away. Mm-mm. We need everybody who has ancestors who were colonial settlers that enslaved people, slaughtered people, stole land, created laws to suppress people that wasn't in their best interest. Like, you need to do the work to change the generations to come, including your current generation and even generations above you. Just like, you need to do the work, and that's not going to be with love and light. That's going to be with shadow work. That's going to be with healing, addressing your inner shadow, which we talked about on a previous podcast. And if you spiritually bypass, which, by the way, before I continue, have we talked about that before?
I don't think so.
If you spiritually bypass a difficult thing, it's often, I'm going to raise my vibration above this current situation so I don't have to worry about it anymore, and we're good. I feel good now, whatever.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
And so you're literally using cheat codes in Super Mario to skip a level.
Or like in The Sims when you put in mother load to get more money.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's literally, you literally have bypassed the entire thing to get, no. You
work at that burger joint. You get that 2-bedroom house from your hard-earned money. Yes, 1,000% that analogy works. By the way, am I in your Sims neighborhood?
I feel like you should be.
Let's talk off camera. Okay.
Okay. Whoa. So I don't have a Sims neighborhood.
Oh, so you were just using, I thought you were playing The Sims recently. Girl.
No, I am.
Oh, okay. Well then put me in your Sims neighborhood.
How do I do that? I don't understand.
Oh, okay. Well, super
Off.
quick side tangent. When you're playing The Sims, you can create multiple families that live in the same neighborhood. So you would just create a separate family where I would be living in the same neighborhood. So,
Oh, I thought it was your character would come live in my world.
I mean, I wish, but no, you have to make
Oh.
me in your vision.
Oh my God, I'm gonna make you.
Cool. Back to Ebony
Yes,
Davis.
please. Yes. Sorry. And I don't mean for this to be like insensitive to anyone who's listening. It's just when you and I start to talk, I think like, we get each other in terms of like humor, but we are not trying to be insensitive. We are not trying to shift the conversation in a way because,
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. There's none of that. It's just like,
we're two very excitable people.
We really, really are. And so there's genuine like love and compassion and so much respect behind this conversation. And I just want to make sure everyone is very clear in that as we continue on in this conversation, because, Matt and I can go along and we can joke forever. But these are obviously not things that we are meaning to like come across.
Make light of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that said, I'd love for you to continue on with spiritual bypassing and then diving into shadow work as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, the concept that Ebony Davis was touching on is the fact that if we just say love and light and we spiritually bypass all of the hard work that needs to happen in order for the collective to raise their vibration from healing past wounds and traumas, if we spiritually bypass, we will never heal as a collective. We will never change the systems. We actually have to face the injustices head on and actually change everything from the ground up. That starts from within. And that video was, I think, 3 minutes. I watched it. I was like, I think I was lying in bed and I was watching it on my phone and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was like, I just felt this huge weight. Like it was like sandbags just covering my entire body. Like, what the hell have you been doing, Matt? And please, I don't want to like cancel culture love and light, because that's problematic as well anyway. Like cancel culture just shutting down what's problematic is not actually showing the injustices or how we can level up and change. I just felt this really deep guilt that maybe I wasn't being sensitive to people who need way more than love and light to grow. Mm-hmm. And I actually changed said slogan from lead with love and light. And I'm still working on it. Right now, it is with courage and compassion.
Oh, I love that.
Because those are two things that we need. And also to light, courage, compassion, love. Like it's still the same vibe, but we're not spiritually bypassing and we're not overriding and we're not pretending like everything is fine. We need to use compassion and courage to do the work to move forward. And I have so much respect for Ebony Davis. Highly recommend all of you go check her out. She's a literal goddess. Like,
I can't wait to go and check her out.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
What you're saying about love and light, that's how I sign things off all the time. And to be honest, I never thought about it in that way as, spiritually bypassing and not being compassionate to what is happening. For me, it's always been with the intention of like gratitude and kindness. You know what I mean? And so I think that we all have, and this sort of goes back to what we were saying before, that there's like 18,000 different sides to every single opinion and every single thing that people say. And I think this is why it can be so confusing to figure out how to learn and how to unlearn, because there's no right or wrong way, which is why I also said before that I know I'm going to say the wrong thing because it's not everyone's going to agree with what I say. But I honestly and truly believe that if you come from a place where you're connected into your soul and you spread what is empathy and genuine kindness for humanity, I think you'll always be guided in the right way. It's when we forget those values and it's when we forget how to do that and how to treat people as people. You know what I mean?
Yes. I want to add on to this two things. One, you're a literal ray of sunshine. Like,
thank you.
But you are. Like when I met you, that is your vibration. That is your aura. That's your energy. You just like shine through a room and like it's very bubbly and it's very healing and very, very light. So don't feel bad about sticking with love and light if you feel like it's the right thing, because that's very your vibration. For me, why I decided to change lead with love and light is because it's not. I'm so comfortable working with shadow work. I've been in therapy for years. I've learned how to be a therapist. I literally go down into the crap and the mud and the shit in order to clean, heal, and then plant seeds to then grow and go back up to the light. And that's how I've always lived my life. In fact, there are astrological placements in my chart that state that I have that kind of chaotic cycle. A lot of my house placements are in the 8th house, which is death and regeneration.
Oh, so it's a constant cycle
for me. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's one thing to lead with love and light, but it's also another thing to kind of like reset your perspective to be like, how can we move forward to kind of do the work. The other thing that I wanted to say was, what was it? It had to do with, oh no, because
I hate when this happens.
I know, it was really relevant too. It was about shucks.
Well, if you remember it,
okay,
we're going to come back to it because I know it'll come back. I think something else that we'll talk about will spark it.
Sure.
So I guess, from this. Okay.
I've met people in the spiritual community who just spiritually bypass all the time. And they claim that's spirituality, to only experience high vibrational feelings to then raise the energy of the collective. And that is so tricky because, yeah, we need to raise the vibration of the collective, and we can do that by keeping our vibration high. But if you're not willing to heal yourself, address the shadow, and also help other people be honest and address the shadow, that's when love and light can be problematic. Girl, okay, we need a podcast. Let's just make a podcast together, okay?
Honestly, I'm not mad at that. I'm just saying, this entire time, I just keep thinking about like how fun that would be. But also it's crazy that you brought that up, because my next question for you was literally this, like, how does talking about social injustices raise the vibration of the collective? And you literally just touched on it. So it's so funny that we both had the same thought.
Love that so much. Okay, so it's very simple. Okay. Imagine we're living in a little hamlet in the middle of nowhere, and it's like in a fantasy land, and there's a castle that's off in the distance, and we don't know anything outside of our little town.
Okay.
Little town, it's a quiet village. Anyway, we stay asleep, we stay quiet, we stay concerned, and then there's like this traveling nomadic clan that like comes through, and then our town is like, they're different, no.
I'm loving this analogy though. As a side note, it's feeling very like a World of Warcraft or like Clash of the Clans. I don't even think that's, Clan
very
of the
my vibe,
very
my vibe. It's fine. I love it.
Yeah.
In any case, if we are not willing to look at things that are different from us and point fingers and really look inward and change those things, we're just gonna keep staying comfortable, and that's not what life is. A comedian a comedian also added on to this analogy in a very simple way. It's like people like walking around in different countries, and then they find other people's like, oh, you're not like me, and then like, oh, I just defined all of the world's problems. Like, we just need to understand that we can't expect everyone to be like us. We can't expect everything to be the same or peaceful. And especially if there are hierarchical powers hierarchical powers, period, that have been imposing structure to keep us afraid in little segregated things, unsure about other people, it's going to have us stay asleep unintentionally until things like this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Until we can embrace concepts like, you know, defunding the police to create better community outreach, or maybe like more affordable housing, or better healthcare, or better education, so we can actually educate our future generations to create a safer, better world, instead of, oh, you know, hey, that person looks dangerous, better kill them. Like, no, we need to stop that. We will raise the vibration of the collective by basically looking at what is wrong, so then that way we can all come from a place of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I really went on a crazy tangent there. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry. I loved the way that you started out with that analogy and what you said, because that, I think, is what's missing. If you look at all of the pieces that are wrong, quote unquote, or things that aren't working, when I think of it in like, I try and think of it in like an objective. Honestly, I try and see every single side so that I can make the most educated decision that I can make. And when I look at all of these different things, a lot of it comes from a lack of understanding, a lack of willingness to learn more, and a lack of compassion, that people are people and we all have feelings and we all come from the same place. You know, like place, like spiritual, like world, like up there. We don't all come from the same country. That's not what I'm saying. We don't all have the same circumstances. We don't all get the same, we don't all have the same privilege. Like we do not. It is very, very different. But I think understanding that, Matt, you and I live in completely different houses. We have completely different experiences.
Correct.
We have completely different upbringings. You know,
Correct.
Everything that you and I, like, while we can see eye to eye on a lot of things, we may not have had the same experiences growing up, right?
No, yeah, 1,000%.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Like, I will never understand what it would feel like to be Matt, and you would never understand what it feels like to be me. But it doesn't mean that we discount anything that the other person has gone through or experienced because we don't care. We have to do better. We have to care about people who are sitting in front of us. This is why, you know, organizations like LGBTQ and Pride and Black Lives Matter and all these things, they all are so important, because it talks about conversations that maybe never would have happened. And could you imagine what it would feel like to never, in today's day and age, be able to be who you truly are, and to be scared to be who you truly are? I couldn't imagine what that feels like. But what I can do is do better. What I can do is show support. What I can do is learn. What I can do is have conversations like this. What I can do is hold space and open my DMs up for questions, and open my emails up for questions, and bring on people who can educate, and bring on people who can share. And those are the things that matter. It's about the understanding. It's about the compassion. It's about remembering that we are all living an experience. We are all living here, and we are all here to do something. We have a purposeful presence and work that we need to do. And what you were saying about spiritual bypass before, I witnessed that so much, even in my own community. I was like, where are you all? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you think that it's, you know, and not in a judgmental way, because I understand that people cannot all comprehend the magnitude, and it takes time. You know what I mean? It takes time sometimes to be able to understand. It can take a month to look back and be like, oh shit, I was really wrong.
Yeah. Oh my God, 1,000%. Two things. One, Jane Elliott, know her?
Okay.
She's a political activist and educator for many, many years, and she has been basically creating content and educational tools to educate people. And she basically said what you said in a very, very scientific way, that we are all people, and the only thing that makes us different in our skin tone is the amount of melanin in our bodies, which actually changes the pigment of the skin tone, which is directly correlated to where you live on the planet. Yet for whatever reason, the white supremacist structure has been created to minimize the power or potential of people that have more melanin pigment, which is ridiculous. So first, I want to just point out that Jane Elliott, amazing. Take a Walk in My Shoes, I think is the documentary that she did when it was the 80s. Look it up, it's incredible. And then the other thing that I wanted to address was, wow, I did it again. I only remembered one thing as a gay queer man, proudly identified, I've really only learned everything that I should have about pride and its importance to support Black trans lives this year. And how I know I live in an age where I can walk down the street and be gay and not get attacked, usually, because it still happens, but like I didn't learn the roots of everything like I should have. And there are some incredible Black trans folks that literally led the charge to give people like me rights.
The opportunity
to live. So for us to not stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matters and Black trans lives and trans folks, and that's a whole other conversation, because there's a lot of people in the LGBTQ community who don't understand that yet, because we're still learning how to be better people. It's just amazing how much unlearning we have to do and how much honoring of people that we have to do. And I mean, Marsha P. Johnson was one person, and yet at the same time, without them, who knows where I would have ended up,
It's really interesting that you say that, because one of, I'll tell you like a personal story. How do I start this story? When I was younger, my mom has two brothers. One has passed away now, and the other one lives here. The one who passed away lived in the States, and the one who lives here lives in Toronto. And when we were growing up, I had two uncles that lived in Toronto. And my uncles are partners. They're gay. They're together. When I was growing up, I didn't know what the difference was. I didn't understand what it, I don't know how to properly say this so that it doesn't come off as like offensive. That's not my intention. My intention is really to just shed light that I grew up surrounded by the idea that this was the perfectly normal thing to do. They've been together for like 25 years, almost 30 years, I think. Yeah. And so, growing up, it was always very normal to have my two uncles. And then I'll never forget, I think I was like 10 or 9 or something like that. And I said to my mom, I was like, I'm like, okay, so they're gay. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Matt, I didn't know. From when I was little to when I sort of like realized what society says, I never realized. I didn't know what the difference was. And I think this kind of goes to show that, nobody is born a racist. It's made. Nobody is born understanding that is something is wrong or shouldn't be. It's not. Like, I just, and even now, like, I couldn't imagine it any other way. You know what I mean? And I couldn't imagine if they weren't allowed to be together or ever be with the person that they loved because somebody said that it was wrong. Says who? Why? Why do I get to get married and be happy, but somebody else can't? It doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know what I mean? Who are we to say what people are allowed to do and to not do? Who are we? Where do these rules come from and why? You know what I mean? It's just, it blows my mind. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is, these things are ingrained in us by the beliefs that are put onto us by society, by the things that, parents or teachers or, elders or, elderly figures or whatever you want to call it will put down onto us, but they don't have to be your beliefs. So if you've believed something for your entire life, it doesn't have to be your belief. Check that. Check yourself. Do you really believe that? Or are you just believing it because your whole entire family does and you don't want to be the odd one out? Oh, I got a clap. Wow.
I love that. All of that. Because it's that simple. It's as simple as, hang on a second. Is this what? And then you just open the door and then you start thinking about it. If you're raised thinking a certain thing a certain way, and then you decide to change your paradigm, that's okay. You know, I think
That's the point.
right.
What the hell are we doing here if not to grow and evolve? Actually, what the fuck are we doing here, Matt?
I had a really, really tough conversation with a family member about literally all of this, and they're in their 60s, and it was rough. It was bad. I did everything I possibly could to try and get to some level of understanding of the importance of what you and I have talked about today. And it just flopped because they had ingrained in themselves so much that in their ego that has been fragmented and like crystallized over years and years and years of, this is what I believe, 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 end of story. I was like, I have to redirect my emotional energy elsewhere, and I have to help other people see that it doesn't have to stay like that. You can admit you're wrong. You can admit that these are injustices that have to be fixed. It is okay for you to make a mistake. You know, you've said multiple times in this podcast today, I'm going to speak and I might make a mistake, and that's okay. And that is the most honorable thing that you can do, especially as, I'm assuming, cisgendered, heterosexual, female, white woman.
Yep.
The most responsible thing you can do, Simona.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. You know, another thing that I think about a lot, so like, it's interesting. So my fiance is half Trini, half Croatian. And his last name is like a West Indian last name. So I won't say it. Well, I mean, you guys can all find it if you really wanted to, but you know, I'm like, should I protect his identity? I don't know. Anyways, his last name is, but you never know who's listening, right? I don't want someone like show up at my house and be like, your podcast insulted me, you know, or like, I don't know. You never know what people have their own opinions. You never know. Anyways, his last name is Singh. And so our children will have his last name. You know what I mean? So when all of this shift was happening, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have children with my fiance, and maybe one will come out more white, one will come out more dark, because he's like West Indian Trini. So anyways, so whatever, they're not going to look the same. And my children are going to experience things that I'll never understand, because I have the privilege of having an Italian last name. I'm white. And like, honestly, have lived a very privileged life. I'll never understand. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to start understanding, because what do you say? And like, these are literally the conversations I have with myself in my head. What do you say to like a 5-year-old that's like, they made fun of me for my last name? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what do you say? You know what I mean? So it's like, what do I need to do to be able to be more understanding towards that one day, but also towards that right now? Do you know what I mean? That just because you have a specific name, that means you're less than, because that's how people see it. If you think about it, right?
Totally. 1,000%. Like, I can, if I wanted to, conceal my sexuality and then have even more privilege than I already have. And I'm very aware of that. I don't think I'm going to have kids, but I'm very much in a headspace where I will have public conversations with people where if I see something problematic happening, like said spiritual person who was selling Palo Santo sage, and I'm like, I wonder if it would be wise for us to maybe respect that culture and maybe check with them if it's okay to do this, and then experience that kind of pressure in a different way, because I'm not going to have offspring to teach, like, you're like white passing, so therefore you're going to have more privilege. Like, I won't have that direct lineage to speak to. So it's important that you're already thinking about those questions. And honestly too, that there are so many other people who can now start thinking about how to have those questions before they have a baby.
Right?
Period.
When you heal yourself, you heal back and you heal forward.
Yes.
You already change and what is going to happen in the future.
Girl, okay, so as soon as I met you, I was like, there's so much potential in Simona, but I did not expect you to talk about healing in a capacity like this, maybe 8 months later?
Oh my God, that makes me smile.
But it's
Huge.
true though. It's
Thank
true.
you.
Like if everybody could start talking and thinking like you, period, then all of them with the white moms, with white passing families can start maybe being aware of privilege that exists. You have white privilege. I had this conversation with my mother in the car the other day, and it was really, really sweet because she was just like, so I have white privilege.
Oh,
And I'm like,
bless.
yes, you do.
Yes.
And that's okay. But it's important that you use it to help people instead of do nothing. And she was like, okay, I think I understand. Like, these are the kinds of conversations that we can have. Upper generations, lower generations, sideways generations, people you don't know, strangers, friends, just like whatever. It's our work to do now.
Exactly. And I think what's so key about that too is like making sure that you're holding space for people to react and unfold in the way, because if you're talking to someone who's 60 years old, okay, they've lived for 60 years. Do you know what I mean? In a specific way with specific beliefs and specific situation growing up and all of that, specific experiences. You can't necessarily have a conversation and expect someone to understand in 5 minutes what you're saying. Sometimes people need to sit with it, and sometimes people need to take that and digest it and be like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's how the work is done. That is how it continues. But the key is to, I think, you know, like I've said a billion times, like know that if you sit in a place of white privilege, knowing that you will make mistakes, but also knowing that, you know, you have like a responsibility to help shift the way the society works, even in your own world. You know what I mean? We all have this grandiose idea we want to change the world. Well, what's the best way of changing the world? The best way to change the world is to change your world first, to change the world of the people around you. And then that multiplies, because so it's like a circle. So like there's you, then there's all the people around you. And then as these people start to shift around you, then each person shifts their network. Then each person in that work shifts their network. And it shift. More understanding, more compassion, more, I was gonna say more love, more light, but
hey, you know what?
In my
honestly,
version.
yes, and that's fine. That's totally fine.
I love it.
In that same way, one major thing that I did at the beginning of my awakening process, pretty much at the beginning of June, rest in peace, George Floyd, and everybody else. Fuck. At the very beginning of my awakening, I created a highlight on my Instagram of every single Instagram story, post, and information that I found from Black creators and allies for how to be a better ally, what to know, what does defunding the police even mean, how can we work together, listen to wisdom of really, really impassioned, intelligent people, including our girl Ebony Davis. Go check her out, she's amazing. I just created this highlight as like this is how I'm gonna get people to pay attention. Like, this is the easiest way that I can, while I also do my unlearning.
Exactly. And I think that, you know, we all have the opportunity to do that in our own way, however we can. So, you know, on something that I looked at immediately was, who have I been having on my podcast? Have I been sharing enough stories from, well, not me sharing, like, have I been giving, you know, holding space for people of color to come on here and share their stories? And I'll be honest, I was, you know, I think you can always do better, but I was decently pleased, because when I looked, I was like, you know, I wouldn't say specifically Black people, but all different cultures, like people of color. And I think that, you know, for a small moment, I felt a little bit proud that without even thinking about it, these people came onto this space, shared their lives, shared their businesses, shared their struggles, share what they do, and will continue to do so. What changes from there is having guests like you on to have hard conversations, to have different business owners, Black business owners, people of color onto my show to talk about their life and their struggle and what they've experienced and amplify. Do you know what I mean? And that was the most tangible way for me, because this is something that comes out every single week. You know what I mean? Like, these episodes come out every single week, right? And so I think that, you know, it's not enough to be like, okay, well, I'm going to do like one episode and that's all that's going to happen. And then it's just going to be like under the rug and we're never going to have to talk about it ever again. It doesn't work like that.
No,
It doesn't work like
no.
that.
Well, no, we're integrating it into our work. And that's the most important thing that we can do at this point, because then by example, what we're showing people is that this isn't trending on Instagram anymore. It's just how we should just live this way.
Yeah.
Period.
I love it. So, you know, okay, as a side note, this is, I think, the longest interview that I've ever done on the show.
Oh my God, I'm on
And
it.
I feel like I could talk to you all night. We'll still be here in like 4 hours because we'll find other things to talk about. We could actually talk forever.
Yep.
And so with that in mind, I would love, well, like not 4 hours in mind, obviously. But I would love, you know, for you to actually, not yet. I have a different question.
Plot twist.
So,
okay.
Plot twist. So at the beginning of this, before we even hit record, I had asked if you wanted to do a card pull for the collective. And
Let's go.
think you said yes.
Let's go. So I'm
Love
just going to tune into the energy of the collective. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Simona, pick a number from 1 to 3.
Out loud?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ooh, 2.5. No, I'm just kidding. 3.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. Rad. Okay, so we open with the Ace of Swords.
I love it. For everyone who's just listening and not watching, if you want to watch this part, just head to my YouTube channel and you can see the actual cards that Matt's pulling right now.
Absolutely. The Ace of Swords is epiphany energy. It is a wake up. No kidding. It's literally like a major mental shift and paradigm of realization for change. And what's cool about the Ace of Swords is the fact that it represents a sword, and it's like, kind of on this mantle, and it looks very sacred. This knowledge, this sacred knowledge, can either create a new path by cutting what's in its way or destroy things that no longer serve. And as a collective, we need to do both.
Wow. That's a crazy card.
Well, I mean, it's psychic or something. Anyway, the next card is the Knight of Cups. What's interesting about this is the fact that the Knight of Cups is, out of the 4 knights, he's the most romantic, he's the most dreamy, he's the artist, he's the lover, not the fighter. And that is very much what we need to do in order to continue to spread the word and how to shift things. We need to really address what is problematic, so then we can embrace more compassion, more community, more togetherness. And like, he's not bound by structures of society that we've been bound by for so long. That's something else to consider, that are the very fabric of our society, because of COVID-19, which we haven't even talked about, and that's fine.
Oh my God. Well, we'll talk about that when it comes back in October. I'm just kidding.
Oh, woof. Okay.
Well, that's what they're saying, round 2.
Right, round 2.
Have to have you back on, and we can talk about that too.
We need to embrace that love and that compassion in order to readdress things. And this is just the beginning, because the Knight of Cups has picked up the Ace of Swords to then engage in the 5 of Wands.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. So the 5 of Wands is, it's chaos energy. It's structures, butting heads, it's people all talking over each other. It's just, everyone is trying to figure out what to do. And like, look at all those birds. They're all squawking. They're all like getting in each other's faces. This is what we need to be doing as a collective. We need to literally keep shaking things up, waking things up, having these difficult conversations, questioning, becoming better people. Why is Hillary Clinton on trial? Why are people still being overtly racist? Why are we afraid of change? We need to really, truly look inward and then not be afraid to speak. That's the reading.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
It always blows my mind that they're so accurate.
I mean, the first episode that we did, I articulated that I was gifted tarot, and I do believe that if you receive it as a gift, you're meant to use it for the collective. You can go to the store and buy yourself a tarot deck because you want to read tarot cards. That's totally fine. I'm not going to tell you no, but I believe this because I was gifted this path to help people, like whether it's from a place of love and light or a place of courage and compassion.
I love that. And I also love that they can all exist together, and that's okay. Yes. Again, all of the different opinions together, which exactly. I love it. I love it. Okay, Matt, thank you so much for doing that card pull. And you know how happy I am to have you on this show. And you also know from the last time that you were on here, maybe, I don't know if you remember, but I always ask one question to all of my guests when they come onto the show. And this question is, how could someone create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Cool. Dismantle the white supremacist system.
No big deal.
No big deal. But honestly, okay, I'm going to not be a little shit about it. I'm sorry. I'll be a little bit more grounded. You can create more happiness for yourself by being authentic and owning who you are and how you can be a better person. That can look like anything from learning how to be more kind, unlearning everything that you've been taught, and also not forgetting to be kind to yourself during this process, because I can honestly say it has been a roller coaster, but I am a happier, more grounded and more light person because it's like I've been shedding skin, like letting things go, letting things behind, and I feel even more confident and happy in the work that I want to do because it's for the greater good.
I love that.
But also dismantle the white supremacist system.
The smile at the end, you're like, yes, everybody. I love it. Okay, Matt, where can our listeners find you? Because I know they're going to want to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am most active on Instagram. So that's at Mattarot, Mattarot. And then you can also reach out to me on my website, maybe book a session. I also do crystal healing, and that's something that I haven't really talked about in this podcast, but one thing that I've been doing is actually creating crystal healing grids for the collective during this period of time, especially for the people protesting on the front lines because they needed that backup energy. So I'm a tarot card reader, I'm a crystal healer, I'm a creative arts therapist, and you can find me and the services that I offer on my website, mattarot.com, Mattarot.com.
Amazing. I'm going to link that in the show notes as well, so people can find you so much easier. Thank you so much, so much, Matt, for coming onto the show.
Thank you.
This was an incredible conversation, and I really appreciate your time, your wisdom, your love, your insight, your courage, and your confidence.
And my compassion, maybe?
Oh, and your compassion. Yes, and your compassion. 100%.
Thank you so much, Simona. I say this in all honesty. I'm so proud of you and the journey that you're going on, and I can't wait to see you continue to literally shine your light even brighter. It is an honor to be here. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I hope you loved this episode. I hope you learned in this episode. I hope you challenged yourself in this episode. I hope you thought about something differently in this episode. And most of all, I hope you share this episode. And I hope that you take this and you share it with someone who you know needs to hear this message, because we all know that there's someone who needs more compassion, and who needs more courage, and who needs more understanding, and who needs more perspective, in a nice way. And I think that, this is an incredible opportunity to share some wisdom with somebody else who just might need this in order to shift their thinking and the journey that they're on. So thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. I'm so grateful that you're here every single week and that you come back every single week. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day, a beautiful week wherever you are. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.
Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.